What were you doing 1 year ago on this date, best you can tell?
We were preparing for the expansion draft and probably going through a mock draft. We did one a month. We'd bring our entire staff in and run through the mock draft for expansion, and it got better each month as our scouts got sharper in their evaluations, and we got more facile with the rules. And at the same time that we were preparing for mock drafts, we were also, a mock draft to try and draft 30 players in the expansion draft. We were also trying to prepare for an amateur draft that followed 3 or 4 days later, and we put the time in, and it was an extraordinary amount of work. It paid off pretty well because we got a good team out of it, and we got some surplus draft picks, which is the other thing that we wanted to accomplish in the entry draft.
So the rules with which you were facile has been in quite a lot discussion of them in the last 24 hours ever since you gained the Stanley Cup Finals. I don't know if people were complaining or saying that the rules were changed in the expansion draft as to the number of players that you had exposed for you to choose as opposed to previous years. I don't know if that was discussed as much as it has been in the last 24 hours. What do you say to those who say that it was easier for you to put something like this together than in previous expansion years, George?
Well, there's no doubt, Rich, that the rules were more fair, that we had an opportunity to get better players than expansion teams had in previous expansions. But no one was really complaining when they were getting the check for $17 million per club. Because their owner paid $500 million, and he had to have a shot to be able to build a good team to give this marketplace a chance. And I thought the NHL did it really well.
So which player that was available for you were you the most licking your chops over, that you couldn't believe that he was available for you to choose, George?
Honestly, Rich, that's hard to say because there were a bunch. We wanted to be a good team. As I said, we wanted to get the best team we could out of the expansion draft and then do well in the entry draft and get surplus picks so we could draft our way to a championship. The mosaic changed every month when we went in and looked at, this player's playing well, this player isn't playing well, this player's someone that's come out of nowhere, this player's in decline. It's, and we really didn't know until a couple of weeks leading up to expansion what it was going to look like. And so there were opportunities there and also lots of risk. People were talking about how well some people have done for us, but we kind of liked them, but we weren't sure. We didn't know they were going to come through the way they have, and I have to give a lot of credit to Gerard Gallant for galvanizing this team and really developing a lot of players that are much better players now than they were a year ago.
So then let me flip the question. George McPhee, Golden Knights general manager. In previous expansion years where the rules were, to use your phrase, I guess, less fair, which player were you able to get that you think you wouldn't have in previous years, George?
Well, you wouldn't be able to get the goaltender that we were able to pick up. And that's probably where the big difference is. Certainly, what's interesting is this expansion was in a salary cap era. Most expansions teams haven't been. And so the other advantage that we had that we weren't aware of initially was there are teams that have financial stress due to the salary cap. And so some had exposure stress, some had financial stress, and we were able to sort of attack that and take contracts from people that they'd like to get off the books in exchange for some good prospects or draft picks. And so that was a big help that we hadn't initially thought of.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.